Ludwig cancels his Dubai trip.
Reason 2, which I think is the much bigger reason, you don't need a travel visa to go to Dubai. So that's why they picked Dubai. Again, literally $0 being transferred. That's it. So anyway, that's the reason.
Is that a Twilight shirt?
It's not an excuse. That's just the facts of what's happening. And then the third thing, Red Bull is also very supportive. So like, I was like, hey man, can I just not go? And they're like, sure. So I'm just not going. But that was what the trip was meant to be. That's why it was where it was. And I just am no longer going. But I did see a lot of like, this is crazy. Ludwig is sports washing, which is a term I never heard.
Yeah.
Dubai, I can't believe he's doing content out there. I can't believe he's getting money from big oil. None of that is true. That's all just a lie. Or, not a lie. It's an assumption.
Okay. So basically people are mad at him because he was going to go to Dubai, press X to doubt for getting the money or the bag. Don't know if he's trying to kid. I have no idea about that. Of course, he's probably getting paid money. Didn't this exact thing happen 2 years ago in Mizkif, Asfand, and Emeru, etc.? Well, so the worst thing about this, I remember whenever this happened, and this is why I wanted to talk about this. What kind of sport is sports washing, I've heard? Okay, so let me explain what sports washing is. And by the way, I'm not justifying the usage of the term. I'm just simply explaining what the term is, okay? Sports washing is the idea that companies that have a very bad public image in terms of their world standing, like, for example, Saudi Arabia or a place like North Korea, like Nazi Germany, right? For example, had the Olympics in it, I believe. I think it was Nazi Germany during World War II. And Qatar was the same thing with the recent World Cup. So all of these places are accused effectively of sports washing. And what the idea of that is that they are paying a lot of money to have people come into their culture. And then they're doing it basically as a Trojan horse, where the horse is the sports, and then inside of the horse is their culture. So they're trying to get people to passively accept their culture by spending a lot of money on sports to make people consume their culture more. That's effectively what sports washing is. Does that make sense? Did I give a good analysis of that? I just want to make sure that I'm saying it the right way. Thank you for clarifying it. Yeah. With that logic, it makes sense. Yes. Like, for example, the PGA you saw recently, was it Messi or Ronaldo? I don't remember which one, turned down, I believe it was $1 billion from some sort of Saudi soccer league. Yeah, I think that's one example. Yeah, golf, I think, has been going through there. Ronaldo plays there. Yeah, exactly. And so, think about that. $1 billion. $1 billion. And of course, companies are going to do this. And yes, 2 years ago, Mizkif, Asfand, and Emeru did have an offer to go to Saudi Arabia. And whenever this got leaked, I immediately went on and, as usual, had nothing to do with the topic, but somehow made everybody hate me even more than they hated them. Because I said that it's not a big deal, and if somebody paid me a lot of money and I felt like going, I definitely would. I personally understand why people have concerns about sports washing, but I also think that it works both ways. Whereas, yes, we do normalize some cultural things that happen in those countries that I disagree with, I also think that it normalizes our culture in the eyes of the young people that are in that country as well. And so the more meshing of those cultures that will happen, I think that there will be a positive outcome to it in the long run. That's what I personally think. Why do I think that? I think that because, number one, there's somebody I knew that lived in Saudi Arabia. I talked to them about it. And also, I think that that's logically what would make sense, is that you're probably going to have a meet in the middle. And so, and also, these countries do have the right to exist. And I think that you should be diplomatic to some countries to an extent. And trying to say that nobody is allowed to communicate with other people from this country or work with other people from this country, I think is a very ridiculous standard to set. And I also think that it's unfair that people hold social media influencers to a standard that they don't hold multi-billion-dollar companies to, like Red Bull. So I think that it's hypocritical. I think that it's disproportionate. I don't think that it makes sense logically in the long run. And overall, I respect other people's cultures, even though I might completely disagree with them. And so there are some things that's at least the way that I see it. And so, yeah, in the same way that, like, for example, and also, by the way, I want to make one thing clear too. If somebody says they don't want to go to one of these countries because they're not comfortable with their laws or they morally disagree with the countries, I completely think that they're okay in doing that. But the problem that I have is whenever people think that they have the moral authority to tell somebody else what they can and can't do with their own life, and they think that they can take somebody's autonomy away from them and tell them that they can't go to a certain country because they disagree with that country's politics. I think that's ridiculous. And also, how is this, like, I understand that, like, you know, a lot of things that they do in the Middle East is really bad, but we have done a lot of really bad stuff too. Like, I think America has done a lot of really horrible things. And I would even argue, and this is going to really upset some people, but a lot of the bad things that have happened in the Middle East have been downwind of things that we have done, nation building that we have done, putting up dictatorships that we have done, and maybe not done directly, but we have played a role in these things ourselves. And this has been going on for 30 years, really. Probably longer than that I'm just not really aware of. So I don't really see us being in a position to criticize in a big way. I understand the perspective, but I think the more and more that you look at it from an actually ideological background and you evaluate and you really start racking up like the good and the bad things that each of these countries have done historically, I think the U.S. has done a lot of really bad things. Like, didn't we we dropped the nuclear bomb on, like, civilians in Japan? Just evaporated them. Twice. And I understand that, like, and I'm not saying that the U.S., I'm not saying that, like, oh, we're bad, we shouldn't have done that, or we should have done that. All I'm saying is that I don't think that the Middle East has a monopoly on evil. I think that we compete with them all the time. There are different issues that we have a monopoly on and they have a monopoly on. I don't like the idea that you should segment away and get away from other people's culture and alienate them completely. I personally think that bringing a person in who is bigoted, who is closed-minded, and who is antiquated in the way that they look at the world, and trying to extend an olive branch to them and meet in the middle, I do think that in the long run, that is the best thing. And so I understand what the arguments for sports washing are, and I think that there is some legitimacy in it, and if people find it to be unethical, I don't think that they're wrong for thinking that, but I do think that they're wrong for getting angry at a person like Ludwig for making that decision. Personally, I would have no problem going to a place like Dubai. I would have no problem going to a place like Saudi Arabia. And whenever I did, I would respect all of their laws, I would respect their culture, and I would try to enjoy it for as much as I can. So yeah, that's my opinion. It would be cool to see history. I would love to see that. Think about all the incredible things that are there. Absolutely. Of fucking 100%. Dubai is like a private server in real life. It's nuts. So people getting mad at Ludwig for this, I think, are being unfair. And I also don't think that... I don't think that these people really practice what they preach. And I understand that, like, it's okay to have values that you don't necessarily adhere to yourself, but it also makes those values less important to me. Because if what you're saying is that Ludwig is doing this for money, therefore Ludwig is a bad person, then I think logically you would assume that anything that a person does for money, whenever they engage in business with something that is unethical, that would also be for money, and then it would also logically be bad, right? But I guarantee you, if you try to call one of these people out on that, they're going to have a million excuses for why it's okay for them to do it, but it's bad for Ludwig to do it. I don't like that. I find it to be very annoying. When was the last time you left the U.S.? I've never left the United States in my life. UAE is in the top 10 World Slavery Index Providence. It's entirely fair to criticize them and others who associate with them by allowing them to keep that system strong. I totally understand your perspective, but I don't think that it's fair to criticize them because I don't think that you should expect people to have the same values that you do. And I think that you also are participating in things that are bad as well every single day. And I think that it's unfair for you to criticize somebody for taking a massive deal for something like this whenever other people can't even manage their own entertainment. Like, this is what my perspective is. There are a lot of people who cannot even ethically consume entertainment. How are you in a position to criticize somebody for making money. So I don't want to hear about people. I don't want to hear about how these things are bad whenever you cannot even ethically consume entertainment content. No. And also, I think that it serves a greater good. I do agree that it's sports washing, but I think that in like 100 years, it will be better that we did this and that we worked with them and people went over there and we had these types of interactions between the different cultures, because it will mesh the cultures and it will make their culture less extreme. I think that's what will happen. I genuinely believe that. So I think that it does serve an unironic greater good. Would you say the same about North Korea? That's a really interesting question. Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no. I'm not really sure I understand enough about the politics of North Korea and what the context is of your asking. So I'm not sure really if I could answer that. But I do think generally, yeah, it probably would be better to, like actually engage with people and, try to work with them, try to communicate with their culture. Yeah, I think so. It's completely different. I do think it is a massive difference. It definitely is. It's a complete dictatorship. Yeah. Dennis Rodman did? Yeah, he did. I don't know if that's a positive or not. I'm not really sure. Their culture is keeping other people's out? Yeah, there you go. So wise on this point, the Middle East community will be doing important stuff for a while. Look at their work with AI and while US AI intellectuals. Well, I mean, the Middle East is a massive place in the world, and there are hundreds of millions of people that live there. And they have massive amounts of money, and they're part of the world. You can't just pretend that they don't exist. And you can't just bully people into pretending that they don't exist. It's basically socially enforced segregation. And I don't think that it will serve a greater purpose in the long run. So, yep, same opinion I had last year or 2 years ago whenever this happened. I totally support working with these different countries and, trying to meet them in the middle and meshing our cultures together, because I think that that's, one of the best things about... I think it's one of the best things about having a global internet is that you can see other cultures and you can interact with other people from other cultures. It's amazing. Why do you say the cultures are non-inclusive? And what do you say to the cultures that are non-inclusive and don't want to mesh? Then don't. But don't expect everybody else to follow your same logic. That's the difference. Free trade is paramount to free society, especially if we don't mesh cultures. Yeah, I'm from Kuwait, and you're 100% right, bro. Yeah, I know. I have a lot of respect for a lot of the people in the Middle East, and I know that a lot of the people in the Middle East probably don't necessarily like, you might not be as liberal as a lot of us here in the US are, but you have to understand that a lot of the people that live there don't all have the same values as the leadership class of those countries. A lot of them don't have, they might want to be closer to, where we are than they are now. And I think the best way to do that is by allowing them to interface with us and become part of our global internet culture. That's my opinion.